そうだね。久しぶりだからつい張り切っちゃって、朝4時に起きちゃって。
Okay, can we all just agree this is the cutest version of the prof? You know, aside from this.
Fly, 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 fly. Pow, bye, 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 bye.
We open this one with Ken finding the girls struggling with their academics and being a little arrogant about not needing to go to school himself. Apparently, he had skipped grades all the way through to graduate school, which, yeah, just putting aside having an IQ of that magnitude, I would more question what sort of academic system would permit streamline that will allow an 8 or 9-year-old to just go all the way. Anyway, bad pun time.
Still makes more sense than the Speed Racer movie.
That said, above all else, I do agree with the girls' take here that he missed out on some prime opportunities to make some friends. I'll bring this more up later, but I'll just say again, I like the direction they end up taking Ken over these last 2 episodes, and in a couple episodes after this. Also, why does Lil Mac have to be jobbed out here? Come on, I like using him in Ultimate. Tears be damned. Anyway, Ken was convinced to give school another go around, especially after some egging on from Kaoru, who I want to think is still continuing her big sister act from the last episode, and at least instinctively trying to point Ken in the right directions. With that, and I guess since this town only has one educational facility in the entire tri-state area, he went to the same school as the girls, which did have a primary school. There he met another rival character, as well as...
Wait, who voices Momoko? And who voices her little sister? Damn it, how can I resist? Because I swear they better not be making contracts to make magical girls.
But yeah, getting back to that rival character, who even kind of looked like Gary Oak, Ken rather wisely ignored his initial bullying so as not to give him fuel, though he did end up acknowledging his existence that somehow ended up killing an innocent fly. Jeez, what would Kohei say? At the same time, the girls were doing Tai Chi?
Okay, I didn't realize that was part of some school's curriculum. You know, unless it's being taught by an evil bear.
Hey, over there! Don't dawdle!
Later, Ken got to learn more about his classmates, like how Kuriko had a preference for Mega Ranger, good taste, and how this kid named Joe seemed to struggle a little with his education, other than in arts and crafts, which he seemed to be really good at, especially when it came to OC Kaijus.
Hey, great job. Now, just make sure you don't befriend someone who looks like the love child of the Anti-Spiral and Nemesis Prime.
However, Ken actually got around to making the Hakusei goal, and somehow through some technical babble, managed to impress everyone more, though come on, multicolored Godzilla, that's awesome. Thus Joe tried to lure everyone away from him, and yeah, I'm starting to realize this kid might be like the Mitch Mitchelson of this show.
You know, minus Tom Kenny doing his absolute worst Popeye impersonation.
But what was it like, having superpowers and all?
But yeah, his design and attitude does kind of remind me of that little brat, though thankfully he does have at least a few positive qualities, as opposed to none at all, as we'll see soon. Meanwhile, Mojo was watching some rather biased news, so really a news station these days, who were really piling on the poor monkey. Thus, he wanted to find some way of proving that he was a cultured primate.
So yeah, the subtitles didn't note it for some reason, but the word for world conquest is a homonym for uniform seifuku in Japanese. Also, Excelsock already did this joke. Anyway, after a little Google search, he figured that he could find some culture from school. Yeah, good luck with that, dude. Though what was there was kids learning how to be kids. Yeah, this is what happens when you let your kid read, well, really any basketball manga, not just Kuroko. But yeah, putting aside Kuriko and her Taokaka logic, I do like the subtle message that this episode is weaving. Basically that while academics are important, they're far from the only thing you learn in school. In fact, since its relevance can vary from student to student, like in the extreme case of Ken, they will inevitably become a little
Unnecessary. Pointless.
I mean, not to totally dismiss formal education, but let's face it, there are some subjects that just aren't all that important later in life.
What is a necessity is socialization. I mean, no matter how self-reliant they are, people need some form of social interaction in order to maintain a healthy mind and heart, as without them, well, you get a good chunk of the internet right there. Once again, I think an episode like this is especially relevant now when kids are still not allowed to go back to school, even though, as long as it's safe, they really should start heading back and not see Zoom as the way of the future.
Call me old-fashioned, but I'd much rather see my niece develop some real friendships rather than being stuck in a bubble for the rest of her life.
Mojo later arrived at the school in his Popco cosplay. And he snuck into the principal's office to steal a trophy that seemed like a symbol of culture and intelligence. However, the principal caught him in the act, forcing him to run onto the soccer field where he promptly got the Conan treatment. The kids were going to apologize at first, but...
Okay, this show has some pretty nasty prejudices against monkeys.
What is my problem with man, you ask? I ask you, what was man's problem with me?
Understandably, he snapped at these little brats, especially after the principal took back his participation trophy. With that, he called forth his robot that was a scarecrow for some reason. I don't know, maybe he was hoping it would come equipped with a random gun out of nowhere. Fortunately, a still undevilified magical girl in training was nearby.
Yeah, maybe next time you should try using school supplies.
During all of this, Ken almost got squashed by Turniphead's evil brother, but was saved by Joe. Yeah, the two had actually bonded throughout the episode, not to the point that they were just suddenly friends, but enough that they could acknowledge some mutual respect for the other. Besides, the kid's not a total spawn of Satan who just let someone else perish.
Again, thank God this kid was not a direct translation of Mitchelson.
The girl soon arrived, and would have dealt with Mojo, but Momoko didn't want to risk exposing herself to her sister. Fortunately, the kids had them covered, as they challenged Mojo to solve a riddle. They went with the standard riddle of the Sphinx, which Mojo was unfamiliar with, but still, he gave his best answer.
Well, to be fair, he's not that far off conceptually.
But of course, he was wrong, and since he agreed to retreat if he was, his robot just self-destructed. Yeah, don't ask me why. And with that, the episode ended with Ken just quitting school the next day, though he did learn the most important lesson he could within just that one day.
This was a cute episode, and another good bit of development for a character who wasn't even in the original canon.
While Ken kind of follows the genius kid archetype to the T, I do like how the show has addressed how kids of his age should try to enjoy their youth as much as they can. To do this, they did kind of play up many of the common school tropes, though thankfully with a bit of self-awareness.
Throw in some enjoyable side characters like Kuriko, and you get an enjoyable little bit of school drama.
Not too surprisingly, this was another episode written by longtime Doremi writer Yumi Kageyama, who brought much of the spirit of that series into this one, with a very similar school dynamic. Hell, on top of being like her sister, Kuriko seemed to borrow a lot of traits of the titular Ojamajo. However, the main focus of this episode was Ken, who in spite of his vast knowledge and access to a super advanced lab, probably knew deep down there was something missing in his life that he unfortunately never got around to acquiring by rushing through school. That, of course, being good old socialization. And yeah, while this plot point is a bit of a played out cliche to the point that even the episode seemed to acknowledge it, it's still an important message, and at least they got it across competently. And while the girls didn't outright play much of a physical role in this episode, they still played a significant part, ultimately being the ones to point Ken in a better direction. I often like this as a little change of pace, plus there was a pretty hilarious reason why they couldn't directly interfere. Granted, even if they had gotten physically involved, the episode probably wouldn't have been any better or worse, as again, it was just your standard school drama. Still, it was an overall fun school drama, with maybe a little too much Mojo abuse. Seriously, give the poor monkey a break. But at least it had a nice message, plus a really fun trolly Chiwa Saito character, which is always a win in my books.
Later this week, we'll probably release the last video we'll make for a delicious party before the show's actual premiere.
We'll just cover the comments from the main cast and producers, which will give us at least somewhat of an idea of what to expect from the new season. From there, we'll either do a doujinshi review of Tropical Rouge, or my first Yu-Gi-Oh video. We'll see how things pan out.
And until then though, farewell for now my friends, and And until then though, farewell for now my friends, and you know, I think it's high time I made some better use out of this old textbook. This mic was also a little too low.